All right, today we're going to try and unlock one of the most mysterious places you can possibly imagine, your own mind. We're going to be looking at the incredible, groundbreaking techniques that Sigmund Freud came up with to explore this huge hidden world that he called the unconscious.
So let's just start with a really big question. What if the most powerful force that makes you, well, you, what if that whole thing was completely hidden from your view? All your anxieties, your secret hopes, your strange habits, what if they were being driven by something you can't even see? This was the really revolutionary and honestly kind of unsettling idea at the heart of all of Freud's work.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to map out this hidden room of the mind. Then, we'll check out the two main keys Freud developed to get inside. First, free association, and then the big one, dream analysis. We're even going to look at how he tried to crack the dream code before wrapping up with the big question. What's actually in your unconscious? And why does any of this still matter today?
Okay, so this hidden room, what are we talking about here? Well, according to Freud, the unconscious is kind of like a massive basement in your mind. It's where you shove all the stuff you don't want to deal with, repressed memories, deep down fears, all your secret desires. But here's the thing. He argued that this stuff doesn't just sit there gathering dust. Oh no, it's an active force, constantly pulling the strings and shaping who you are every single day.
And that brings us to a really crucial point. Freud wasn't just, digging around in people's minds for fun. The entire purpose of his psychoanalysis was to drag all that hidden material out of the basement and into the light of the conscious mind. Why? Because you can't deal with something you can't see. Only once you bring it into the light can you actually understand it and hopefully resolve it. So, how do you do that?
Well, that brings us to our first key. It's a technique he called free association, and the whole idea is to have a conversation that for once isn't being filtered or censored by your own brain. It's totally unfiltered.
The setup is, well, it's famous, right? The patient lies back on a couch, gets comfortable, and is just encouraged to say whatever pops into their head. No filtering, no judging, no, oh, I can't say that. You just let your thoughts flow. The idea is that by lowering your mental guardrails, this stream of consciousness will eventually lead you to the hidden conflicts that are simmering just below the surface. The analyst just listens, looking for clues.
But here's the really clever part. It's not just about what the patient says. Freud was paying just as much attention to what they didn't say. He called it resistance. You know those moments when someone suddenly goes quiet or abruptly changes the subject or gets weirdly defensive? For Freud, that wasn't a roadblock. It was a giant, flashing arrow pointing directly at something sensitive, something that conscious mind was working overtime to protect.
So if free association was the first key to the lock, Freud believed he'd found a master key, one that could open the deepest, most guarded rooms of the mind. And that key was our dreams.
He has this really famous quote where he calls dreams the royal road to the unconscious. I mean, think about that phrase, the royal road. He wasn't just saying dreams are interesting. He was saying they are the absolute most direct, most important pathway we have to understanding what's really going on inside our own heads.
So what makes dreams so special? Well, Freud's theory was pretty simple. When we fall asleep, our mental defenses, our inner critic, that little voice that keeps everything in check, it goes to sleep too. The guard is off duty. And this allows all of our repressed wishes and fears to bubble up. But they don't just show up and announce themselves. No, they show up in disguise, wearing the weird, symbolic costumes of our dreams.
And this leads to a super important concept, the two layers of every dream. First, you have the manifest content. That's the actual bizarre story you remember when you wake up. You know, the dream where you're flying over a city made of cheese. But underneath that, you have the latent content. And for Freud, that was the real prize. This is the hidden symbolic meaning behind the cheese city. The whole point of dream analysis is to translate the manifest story to uncover the latent meaning.
Okay, so if dreams are a secret code, how on earth do you crack it? Well, Freud believed that even though some symbols are personal to you, a lot of them are actually universal. They show up in people's dreams over and over with very similar hidden meanings. Now, this is where things get really famous. And let's be clear, these are Freud's interpretations, and a lot of them are hotly debated today. But he basically proposed a kind of universal dream dictionary. For instance, a house could represent the human body. He suggested that long objects, like a snake or an umbrella, were symbols for male anatomy, while enclosed spaces, like a box or a cave, stood for female anatomy. An action like climbing stairs could be a symbol for sex. And what about that super common anxiety dream where your teeth are falling out? Freud connected that to a deep-seated fear of castration. Dreaming you're flying wasn't just fun, it was a hidden desire for admiration.
Okay, so we've got free association, and we've got these dream symbols. Now, while a lot of modern psychology has moved on from these exact interpretations, Freud's core ideas were, well, they were absolutely revolutionary. He completely changed the way we think and talk about our inner lives. He's the one who put the idea of the unconscious on the map, the idea that there's more to us than what we see on the surface. And that has influenced pretty much everything, from therapy to movies to the way we talk about ourselves.
So let's just quickly recap the big points here. First, the unconscious mind is the main thing driving our personality. Second, techniques like free association are keys designed to bypass our mental blocks. Third, remember that dreams have those two layers, the surface story and the hidden meaning. Fourth, the weird symbols in our dreams are basically the secret language of our wishes and fears. And finally, the whole goal of using these keys is to drag the unconscious out into the conscious, where we can finally deal with it.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. Whether you buy into all of Freud's specific theories or not, his work really pushes us to listen to ourselves in a deeper way. So the next time you wake up from a particularly strange dream, instead of just forgetting it, maybe just ask yourself, I wonder what my unconscious might be trying to tell me.